The massive $1.9 trillion COVID package is about to make it across the finish line, but before we let President Biden take a victory lap, let's take a look at what's inside. First, let's talk about the part that everyone wants to know about: stimulus checks. The checks, as advertised, are going to be $1,400, but that's just for people who make less than $75,000 or couples that make less than $150,000. Families can get up to $1,400 more for each kid, including dependents over 17. And there's additional help for working parents: a tax credit of $3,000 for kids between 6 and 17, and a little bit more for the babies. For the millions of people who have lost their jobs, an extra $300 per week has been extended through the first week of September. And for those people who made less than $150,000 last year and are now out of work, the first roughly $10,000 in unemployment benefits is going to be tax-free. People who are unemployed can also stay on their former employer's healthcare plan through the end of September. And the government will pay most of the premiums. And there's also extra subsidies for people who get insurance through Obamacare. People who get emergency food aid will receive an extra 15% on their benefits through September. And FEMA's getting over $500 million to put towards helping people who need overnight shelter, meals, emergency rent, or mortgage assistance, and help with utilities as well. For people who don't qualify for that help from FEMA, there's another $30 billion set aside for emergency rental assistance, and $10 billion more for mortgage help. Now, it is important to note that this bill does not extend the federal moratorium on evictions past the end of this month. But what's in the bill that's going to get us closer to beating this pandemic? Well, there's about $130 billion to expand testing and contact tracing and to hire more healthcare workers. Then there's $14 billion for realizing Biden's promise to have enough vaccines for every adult by the end of May. States, cities, and local governments will divvy up $350 billion to cover strapped budgets from the last year. And then, of course, there's schools. Congress is putting $130 billion towards making sure schools reopen soon and safely. $5.5 billion of that will go to helping kids catch up on lost time in summer school and after-school programs. And there's another $40 billion in there for higher ed. And there's a lot of help for individual industries: $25 billion for restaurants and bars, $14 billion for airlines, and nearly $90 billion to cover employee pension plans in a bunch of different sectors. Now, for a package that's aimed at COVID relief, there's plenty in there that at least doesn't feel like it's directly connected to the pandemic. There's money for family planning and arts and humanities and Native American language preservation. There's also $900 million for AmeriCorps and other civil service organizations. But two things not included in this bill: a federal minimum wage increase and student loan forgiveness. Now, most Democrats wanted to use this bill to get those things through, but couldn't make it happen, and that was thanks to other Democrats. And now for our final numbers. There's 0. That's how many Republicans in Congress actually voted for this bill. And then there's 1. That was the margin of victory for the bill in the Senate, meaning that those 2 Georgia Senate seats that the Democrats won back in January mattered a whole lot.